Hello, everyone. Hey, Craig. Don't watch the new video, it's hardly worth it. Hey, Richard. Bob, g'day. Hey, Chip. Cup of coffee. Today's coffee mug, Museum in Motion, San Francisco. Worth a look. Not the best museum in San Francisco, but it's getting there. If you're in San Francisco, there's a sex toy museum, which is very San Francisco, to be honest. Didn't make a video. Anyway, there we go. Hey, Maddie, congratulations. Because I look at museums everywhere, Craig. Congratulations on the new mill, the new lathe, Matt. Who else? Matt Peterson's making bike bits. Did I see that? That's awesome. Necklace Workshop. Lots of cool stuff. JB, g'day. Tom, hello. No updates on the new mill there, Tom. It's not raining here. Hey, Alistair and David. Rustanox, hope you're feeling a bit better. Things are on the mend. We got a sort of a shower overnight, and then it's been hot all day. So what's happening? I threw Discretion to the wind. Oh, that's not much fun, Russ Knox. Threw Discretion to the wind and started engine build. There's a first video up. It's a pretty basic little engine. It's good fun. Won't take me long to do. I've done it in a different manner to those at the moment that are making engines in our community on YouTube. And that was a bit deliberate. I wanted to make something without a whole lot of science and just prove that it was going to work, I guess. And not that I'm trolling anyone, but I just wanted to make sure stuff worked. And I didn't really want to. I'm not part of that whole thing, so I just know what I mean. I just build the engine with the most direct route and end up with a result that works. Probably it's got fog on it or something. Hang on, I'll get my shirt. Probably shirt's a bad idea. We'll try a finger. Is that better? Hey, Thomas. Thanks, Dan. Dan Shed. Go and check out his channel and subscribe to him because he has promised a video this weekend. So hold him to it. Send him a message and ask where it is. If you haven't seen it by about next Tuesday. So there we go. John liked it better before. Hey, John. Willem, g'day. Yep. Hey, look, if you tell me you're going to make a video this weekend an hour before the live stream, you're going to get ragged about it on live stream. Sorry. Anyway, got mail today. Lots of mail. Awesome stuff. Right. We've all been waiting for this, which is belting for the pump for the 400. Isn't on yet. I'm not sure that motor that I got hooked up actually works. I plugged it in and couldn't get anything out of it, so maybe it needs a set of brushes or something. So we might investigate that, or we might just hook it up to a drill or something. But I've got to make a coffee tin or something with a hose tail in the bottom of it. So that's a project for soon. And then maybe we can get it running and see if it works. But anyway, we've got belt. It's pretty awesome. Now, shout out to these guys. This come today, which is excellent, from Desmundy and Son in North Geelong. I went to buy this belt off them on eBay, at their eBay store, and it wouldn't let me put in a postcard to post it, so I sort of forgot about it. It was buy it now, and by the time you get to that stage, it's too late. It was late, and I couldn't be bothered, so I just left it. Anyway, these guys rang me the next day and said, look, you have an item in your shopping cart. Can we do anything to help you make that purchase? And they took my credit card details there and there, cancelled the eBay transaction, sent me a message with a tracking number on it about an hour later, and here it is. So Mundy and Son in North Geelong, industrial transmission guys, I think. That's awesome. Check them out. A little bit impressed. Hey, Dennis. So it's a grippy hot join rubber belt material. It's not all that easy to get, but anyway, got some. So excited about that. See if the pump works. This come Lisa Milne, Ticklish Honeybee, sent me a message and said, this is on eBay, it might interest you. So I bought it because peer pressure and stuff. This is a OB Bolton catalogue from, I'm not even sure what year, to be honest. It's back when they were in King Street in Sydney. Don't know if there's a printing year on it or not. What's that up there? Might be, but I don't think so. Someone's tried to save it and put butterfly clips through here, which is awesome. But I don't think it's got a date in it. It's got some pretty cool stuff. There's number 6 compound engine, which is way too big for most people to build. Love one of those, but complete set of castings for building engines, £5, 18 and 6. 25 shillings extra for post, packed in a case and forwarded by agent, payable on delivery. I think it's a pretty big engine, that. Number 7, I'd love to build. I've got a set of patterns here for a number 7. That's a really nice engine, still available now. Not cheap. Air compressor. Horizontal pumping engine, number 8 horizontal pumping engine. I actually have these castings somewhere. Half built. There were some issues with it. Probably one day I'd like to get in and get this finished, but it's only a tiny little engine. But pretty good fun. I think maybe one day I'll finish it. Bought them years ago. Triple expansion engine, 7/8, inch and a quarter, inch and 3/4, and inch and a quarter stroke. A lot of these were a knockoff of either Stewart models or someone else's. This is a big engine, number 12 beam engine. It is inch and 7/8 bore and 3 3/4 inch stroke with a 14-inch flywheel. Nice engine. And verticals, which were Muncaster pattern, I believe. There were locomotive blueprint drawings in gauge O, gauge 1, gauge 3.5 inch gauge, 5-inch gauge. What else is in here? A lot of these were pure LBSC, ripped off. This is BAT, of course. Fayette. And there were some New South Wales designs too that I don't know how many of them ever got made. But there you go. There's some pretty cool stuff. O-gauge Spirit fired locomotive in New South Wales Railways. That looks fun. Joan, which is basically 2.5 inch gauge titch, which is a bit small for anything. A precision bench drill, which was probably dates it a bit. Traction engine. Boilers. They sold a lot of stuff. Petrol engines. Fittings. Vertical engines and pumps. I guess in here somewhere there's the little pump that I just made. But I don't know where. Can't see it there now. So, all very cool. Got a Bolton catalogue from the 40s, 50s maybe. So anyway, there we go. I like the beam engine too, but it's bigger than anyone's lathe that I know, so that's not going to happen. So there we go. 14-inch flywheel is pretty big. Okay, this is a 3-dog faceplate. Self-centering plate faceplate, or a bridge faceplate, some people call it. Usually they're only about this big and they're built for watchmakers' lathes. This one is made for my big launch. It's inch 10 BSB, it screws on like magic, fits right up. It's the right size spindle. It looks like it's probably made for it. I don't believe that this is Lorch. It could be Lorch Smith. There's nothing written on it, but it's more likely Wolfsjahn or something like that. It's one of the German precision lathe makers. Absolutely. But it's not Schaublin, and it's not Lorch, I don't think. It's not finished right for Lorch. The sharp corners and things. But this is a pretty useful thing. OB Boltons, yes, still in business. I built that little pump recently. Is a Bolton design. EJ Winter is their website. If you have a look, they've probably got the number 12 beam engine and the number 7 horizontal on their website, but they might be scary expensive If you're emailing me, might get back to you. But it's certainly you need extra workbench for a project like that. So 3-dog faceplate's pretty useful thing for making clock and watch parts. If you've got 2 watch cases and one of them needs, you're making a second hole in a plate, or bushing a hole to match the back hole in a clock plate, you can set this up with a center in it and locate the back plate and put the front on and clamp it on here and use that to drill that on center. It's for making bridges and things like that for clocks, and it's also very useful if you've got something thin that you want to put a hole in. So if you've got a bit of 1/4-inch sheet that you want to mark out and put holes in, you can set them up on center with these, which are very similar to a toolmaker's clamp. Yep, I'll send you a link, Matt. No worries at all. Craig's onto it. Look at that. Have I bought this for a specific purpose? No. This is just a fairly rare bit of gear in this size. I've used these in the past, but only 100mm or 80mm diameter for smaller lathes. I believe Lorch made one for the L type, which was about 100mm diameter. But I don't think they made one for the bigger lathe, and that's what this is. This is about 6 inch, something like that, 6.5 inches. It's beautifully made. Like really nice. It's got knurled nuts that all match, and they're all really nice. They could do with an old trip in the ultrasonic, but straight knurls on them, and matching hardened spacer washers. This is spring loaded and it's got a pin. Could all do with a clean up. And this has got a riser nut here, so like that. And this is a nice beautiful sliding fit there, and this one's a sliding fit in there. So these two slide together like that with a spring between them. And this nut here, which way up did that go? Now I've taken it apart without looking. Looks like the double. It looks like they're probably the same both ways. But this probably screws that way up. Yep. And this adjusts the height. Then there's a coil spring in there, which goes between there, and that's clamped down like that. So you can adjust the thickness of the plate and then use this to clamp it down like a toolmaker's clamp. So pretty specky thing to have. Look, you can find anything if you search for long enough, Paddy. This is missing the pump center, which was used for lining up the back hole in the set of clock plates or watch plates. If you're making a new bridge for a watch, let's call it oversized watch or something that big, because it's really not designed for this sort of work, this big one. But if you're making a new bridge and because the old one's damaged or has been bent or they get abused. You can make it fit the hole and set it all up and make it to shape. And then you can set the plate up in here on centre from the rear and bolt the new bridge on and drill and ream the bridge in line. I guess the same thing applies if you want to a plate and a bridge and you want to, say, change out an old-fashioned shockproof on a balance to a modern Inca block one, then you can remove it, and if you need to bore it and broach it, this is the tool for that job. That number 7's really nice. It's still a big engine though, Dan. Don't forget that fridge. It's fairly sizable. This was probably a bit of kit for making marine chronometers, that sort of thing. It's also pretty jolly handy for a lot of model engineering tasks, things like that. If you've got a disc that you want a hole in, or an odd-shaped piece of material that you want to bore out, this thin piece, this is the tool to do it. So if you've got a piece of square plate and you want to bore the centre of it out, this is where it's at. You could, absolutely. A lot of these, especially the smaller ones, have one curved hole. That's a bit of a nuisance. It's good for some things as a compromise. The curved hole is if you're making a bridge or say a balance cock, and you need to get in beside it or off center and put one here and one here and one here and still get it on center. The curved hole enables that to do it, the curved slot. I think Alistair from Ventures with a Very Small Lathe started making one of those. Yes, it's a fairly simple thing that you could retrofit fairly easily from another lathe on another faceplate. Absolutely. But it's very, very nice to have a bit of gear that goes straight on when you get it. Hey, Kerno XP, check out Kerno XP's awesome adventure channel. Bit of ghost hunting, that sort of thing. Well worth a look. Go check out his videos. The reality is that the straight slot faceplate is a lot easier, I think, to set things up in, mostly, because mostly what I'll be doing is making a. So you got a plate like that, and you want to bore a hole in the center of it. Shout out from JB. This is pretty easy to set up in there on any center you like, without any problems. And it doesn't really matter because it should have a spring center from the back, so you can set it up fairly nicely from the other side and bore it, or you use a wobble bar in the center here, or a DTI to get it on center from the front. So this come via Stefan, who was kind enough to post it out for me. Now this was posted out second week in March. Might have been the third week in March by the time it got out. And unfortunately, there was also the week that we were about a week too late, and German postage shut down international letters and it got sent back. So I've been waiting for this since March, and it's finally here. So pretty excited that parcel come from Germany, and Stefan's been sitting on it for until about a fortnight ago, and now he's sent it out again, and I've got it. So that was exciting. There was this bag of stuff come from Stefan. Now, bragging rights, not really, but there's some cool stuff here, and I'm pretty pleased to get this. Haven't really even looked through it. I know there's a couple of nice little tool holders that he's made at some point, and a surplus to equipment requirements, I believe. They're really nice. I'd like to make some more of these. It's a pretty cute little design, and it fits my lathe just spot on. So there's two of those. There's a Morse taper end mill holder, which will be just awesome for my milling machine. And there's a little German keyless scroll chuck that will probably find a use for something. I wouldn't mind making like a floating holder for the tailstock out of that. There's some carbide, which is awesome. And these are all mostly, I think they're probably carbide, but they're end mills and drills and a few reamers and things there. Some of them might be sharp, some of them might not, some of them probably broken. That one's a boring bar. How cute's that? Pretty exciting. So there was some stuff come from Stefan, so really that's pretty awesome. So thanks, Stefan, if you watch this. Really appreciate that. I'm not going to put all this away now. I'm probably going to sit down and sort it out at some point now. What else? What else? I had a whole list of things. I really did. Promise. Break if touched. So that's awesome, and big thanks, Stefan. Good friend and a great guy. Go and check out his channel. Of course, you already do. Drawings for acrylic base done? No, not even close. Sorry, JB. I will get there probably. You can't make an offer like that and expect to be ignored. I've also got to make a pattern this weekend for the radiator base, because I think next weekend or the weekend after I'm going to the foundry, so that's pretty exciting. Here's a tip about nuts and bolts, right? I went to local nuts and bolts guys, and I thought, well, I'll buy a few 3mm nylock nuts, because I use a few of them and I haven't got any, and I wanted probably 10, and they were going to charge me like $2 for them, and that's all right too. It's not crazy expensive. It's certainly cheaper than Bunnings would be if you bought them in an assortment. Anyway, I said, how much for a box of 200? Or how much for a box? How many's in a box? There's 200 in a box. It cost me $6 for 200 of them. They didn't have to count them out. That's $6 Australian, about $4 US. So if you go to your local, ask how much a box of something is, because quite often, if it's a common size, it's not crazy expensive, and it's usually a lot cheaper than buying half a dozen. But yeah, lifetime supply there. You can get caught out. What's a pound? Why would they sell them by lots of 2.2 kilograms? It's a bit strange. But anyway, if you want, we won't go there. $16 ounces. What's that in? What's that in bushels? $20. Lots of stuff sold by the pound. You would never be in a position, Fridge, that you would ever be able to buy or sell a pound of anything. I imagine that you've probably got to save up a couple of days for a quarter bag if we're going to go there. Anyway. Furlongs per fortnight. That's right. How long's a furlong? Anyway, 220 yards is very useful. That's like oh my gosh. Can't get away from it, can you? I wish there was a filter on this so I could just change it all to black and white when this conversation starts, so you feel like you're back there in the old times with like a scratchy film noise filter. 22 yards is one chain. Yeah. Speaking of which, I've got another parcel coming, which is pretty exciting. It's got scanned in Perth, WA this morning, or yesterday morning, from Michigan, Solid Rock Machine Shop. Now, this is a pretty amazing thing that's happened to me this year in 2020, probably more than anything. A little bit humble that it actually happened, and I need to make a bit of an effort to put something back into that part of that community. To need to do something for Steve Barton and the girls and boys, because it's a pretty awesome thing that they've done. The Egyptian owl. That's how many toes are on the scales at the market, Rusty. So there's a parcel coming from Steve Barton at Solid Rock Machine Shop, and it was posted on 20th of August, and it left Chicago on 24th or 25th or something of August, and hasn't been scanned since. But yesterday, or the day before, Tuesday, it was yesterday, it was scanned in Perth, WA, which is I heard today that they're not making 12-inch rules any longer. Actually, I heard that the other day, and I shared that on Discord. but they're not making 12-inch rules any longer, if that helps the discussion at all. Perth to Sydney could take 10, 12 days by truck in a direct line. But hopefully it gets posted or emailed or something. I don't know how it's going to get here. But I don't know how it gets from... I don't know how it got from Chicago to Perth in a direct line. It's just a bizarre sort of a way to send mail to Australia. Perth's like living in America and getting your mail landed in Juneau, Alaska, and then expecting it to get a truck to Texas. That's kind of what it's like. So apologies to anyone who lives in Perth. So I don't know how it's getting here, but it's taken nearly exactly 2 months to get to Perth. I guess it came across the Indian Ocean probably via Christmas Island. Panama Canal and probably Suez Canal and probably Mediterranean and then across there, and then I don't know how it arrived, but anyway, it seems a long way around. So it's coming. It's not a boring bar. I've got 2 or 3 solid rock boring bars, and this is something that I said I would really, really like to buy off him at some point, and he's made the effort of sending it and won't take payment in any form for it. So I'd be surprised when it comes. It might be here next week or it might not, and we'll do an unboxing video. I might do a separate video on unboxing it because it is pretty special. It might turn out. And here you go again about this, everything tries to kill the mailman. Mailmen are almost invincible here, Paddy. You probably should. There's a short film or a feature film called Mailman of the Birdsville Track. Probably worth a look if you're worried about our mailman. Someone might know the name of that. What was his name? Was it Bert? Bert? No, same name as a movie star. Anyway, Mailman of the Birdsville Track, and some of the fun that they had. They made a film about it. It's well worth a look. I really hope it doesn't come by The Back of Beyond, 1954, Tom Cruise. There we go. You're onto this. How good are you? See, you just got to ask someone. Tom Cruise. If you've been to Maree or been to Birdsville, or been to the Adelaide Motor Museum, I think there is actually a couple of his trucks in the Adelaide Motor Museum. I know there's a couple beside the road at Maree, at the bottom of the Birdsville track. And there's a couple of monuments to him up the track, so it's worth a look. Birdsville track, pretty good country. It's been there a couple of times. I've done the Birdsville track a few times. It's all right when it's not raining, and not much fun if it is raining. You're very unlikely to get eaten alive by anything that'll kill you, except maybe camels. Because there's nothing there for them to eat. But anyway, good movie if you're interested in Australian mailmen and what they put up with. Not sure about the one there. Take care, Richard. Good to see you. And yeah, big shout out to Russ Knox too in hospital. That's not much fun, and we're really thinking about him. And glad he's here, and glad he made it. But lots of places he'd rather be, I'm sure. Not much fun. What else? Oh, that's awesome, Bob. That's worth a. It's not a bad sort of a. It's a bit dated maybe, but just 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 be aware that Birdsville hasn't changed much. Yeah. Anyway, new engine build, Maddie says. This is pretty tiny. As you can see, it's a lot smaller than you really think. I made a couple of filing buttons for this the other night. I haven't hardened them yet, but this has got to be filed down to that size. That's the next job. And clean that up. Cylinder's more or less finished besides that, though. I've had GoPro problems. My GoPro won't download to my computer as easy as it used to. I don't know why, whether it's something in the settings or something's just not set right, or whether there's a problem or whether there's an issue, or whether something's broken. I bought a new SD card, SD card today to hope that might fix it. But I'm still trying to get on top of that. It's a bit of a nuisance because half the files that I put off my GoPro at the moment are corrupted, so I'm really, that's annoying the crap out of me. This little engine, you've all had a look at the video, and I really appreciate you watching the video. It looks like everyone did. It's gone to #1 on my videos list at the moment, which is great. Awesome to see, and I really appreciate anyone who left a comment or said anything about it, or said, this makes me feel a little bit better about making an engine for YouTube. Because, yeah, there's stuff going down at the moment. It's a pain. But, yeah, I saw your comment, Jason, and really appreciate that. It could be a bad SD card. I'm really not sure. It's a bit long, and it will be the longest one probably in the whole series, because it's the one that has the introduction on the end of it. And I could have made it into 2 videos, but I never, because I really didn't have the bits filmed for the takeout and the lead in. But anyway, it's longer than I thought. It came from about 5 hours footage, or 4 hours footage, something like that. I had the camera running all the time, I think. And that's what we got. Hey, Stuart. Which SD cards do I use? I just bought a new one, it's not a scan disc. No, because I can't afford a big enough scan disc. New flat belt on the lathe. It's pretty awesome. This has been given trouble for a while. It's a bit frayed and a bit awful. A few of you have commented in the past that it's starting to go. I'm a bit economical with this belt because it's really hard to get here in Australia. This is a rubberized nylon belt, a rubberized canvas belt, and it's really pretty good. This one's had that bump on it from new, and I don't know what that is, but it's been playing there. It's been a bit ordinary for a while, and probably could have shortened it up, but it was getting on a bit, so I put a new one on. This belt flying off at 500 RPM really isn't a particularly scary thing. It's basically, it just falls off and bangs you on the head or whatever. Not even. The lathe just sort of stops and it falls off. It's not a huge calamity. And that's what I like about flat belts, is that they are a lot safer, I think, than V belts probably. So anyway, I think this is probably a S50, a Stewart S50 casting. It's not the right one for this particular engine. And having said that, this is a reproduction of the original kit, and it's got a few holes in the whole process, really. Next bit will be the covers. They'll be fun. They're really rotten little castings and machine on the best of times, but we'll give you some ideas on how to do that, because they really are a bit difficult and a bit hard to chuck up and get to run through and that sort of thing. They're not an exciting casting to machine at all, but I've got ideas how to do that. Yeah, that's right. You can just grab the flat belt and turn the thing over, and I really like that about flat belts. Anyway, I've got a loose main bearing in the lathe at the moment, and I had every intention this week of getting enthusiastic and making new valves for the Stewart 400, which is what it needs. It needs new exhaust valves, I think, is probably one of the things. And I need to do that at some point, because we're chasing compression that's not really there, and when I hook up the gas valve, it's blowing the diaphragm out on a compression stroke, so therefore it's got a leaky intake valve at least, and probably not a particularly good exhaust valve. So this weekend probably I'm going to pull that down and make new valves for it, see if we can fix that. And I'm probably going to machine up this cylinder covers and get some of these bits bolted up together. So there we go. What's up with the lathe spindle bearings, William? Probably they've been running with a different belt on them, and I've changed the belt and it's a little bit tighter, a little bit looser, and something's moved along and it's in a different spot, and all of a sudden you've got problems. But more likely the preload nuts moved a little bit, which changes the relationship of both cones in the bearings. So it's a matter of, there's a bit of a procedure to it, to go through it and just get it Mickey Mouse spot on and tight again, so that everything works and there's no rattles. So they're cone bearings. How long's the belt last? Depends. That one being exposed and kind of right next to an oiler and all that sort of stuff, and runs past a couple of main bearings, doesn't last as long as it could. I get about 12 months out of it. The vertical belts for the motor, which aren't really exposed to anything, and also run on a paper pulley, which probably absorbs a little bit of oil and stuff, that basically that belt's been running since the lathe was put back together, so that's what, 4 or 5 years. Chirpy. It's not a bad little casting, actually, looking at it, right? If we get up close. There wasn't a lot of finished sand involved, right? I've seen better castings, but they are nice and soft. And a lot of this is just parting line that needs to come off here. And here. If you have a look, it's not, there's not a lot of extra metal on it. So it's probably not a bad casting, but it's definitely a casting. It's not as nice as I would expect from Stuart models by any means. It's all right. These are castings from Stuart models. Yes, it's the kit from Stuart. This is probably the cheapest kit they actually make. So the catalogues, older catalogues, 70s, 60s, 70s catalogues, had quite a lot of like information about their castings and how they were all shell cast and how wonderful they were and how good their foundry was, etc., etc. That seems to have been dropped from their later catalogues. Certainly this isn't a bad casting either. This is a box bed, but it's could certainly be a lot longer on the bolt down lugs here, and it could do with a little bit more metal in it in places perhaps. But that's a very simple machine job, mate. That's a really easy job to finish. Get ready, get going. There's probably, seriously, there's probably half hour's work in getting that up and going. There's a bit more in this. I expect by the time you machine this casting up and get the conrod running in it nicely and the portholes and things in it, might take you a day to do this one. These are the real time killers, because if you have a look, while that lug is probably on center, it's not particularly uniform shaped. This one is definitely off center. It's down this way a bit. So that makes it almost impossible to use this as a work holding device to machine the outside. So there are ways around that. And this one's got the same idea, is that you machine this using this lug here to hold it while you machine the back, and then you hold the flange when it's machined and machine the front. But there's not enough meat in this to hold it either, to be honest, to machine this without it spinning in most chucks. So these are the time consuming little castings. Will it be completed, Paul? We'll make a big hole in it. I'd like to get this cylinder finished by then. See how we go. See what else comes in. But seriously, there's 4 or 5 hours in that. 4 hours probably getting that to that stage. A weekend should get these on and a piston in, I reckon. A day next weekend. Get these on here, a piston in it. And probably another day in that. If I got in for 3 days, I reckon we could have a go, but I'm probably not going to make that commitment. But yeah, the answer will be to get the flange plate centered. That's actually in the middle of the casting, which is kind of nice. But set this up here and then there are ways to do this so that it's a good job. Take care, Dennis. Good to see you. Mr. P took 14 days. Mr. P keeps dropping things and had to buy things because he doesn't pick them up. I think you could do it in a lot less than 14 days, to be honest. I've spent 2 hours on it one day and 2 hours on the other day, and I got this done. I reckon if you set this up and machined it, just held him in the 4-jaw and faced the back and faced the front, set this up in counterboard and drilled these holes for hold down bolts, that wouldn't take long to do. This has got to be machined on the back, and it's got to be machined on this face, and it's got to be bored here for the pivot pin, and it's got to be bored through here for the main shaft, and it's got to have some portholes in here, which are not all that particularly difficult in this particular engine. Don't think it'll take long. That's JB Howe. Yeah, he needs to put his money where his mouth is, isn't it? Anyway, they're not. See, now you're starting. David's in one of those moods this week. Anyway, probably it needs a boiler. Yeah. I don't think it'll be a huge deal. It's probably 4mm thick, 5mm thick there. I really don't think it would be a problem to machine it that way. You could set it up in the, because it's got a bit of draft on it. That's my main issue with it. I think you could probably, in a big 4-jaw, probably in a 4-jaw, you could machine the front here, and then probably, this is just thinking out loud, I'd put it upside down in the vise, or set it up in the vise and fly cut the front. Don't know yet. We'll see. But I don't think it's a big job. To be honest, I don't even think this really needs to be machined on the back here. I think if you give this a rub with a file or on a linisher and sat it down so it didn't rock on the bench, that'd be good enough. It's I really don't like holding something like this in the chuck, that's all, because there's got a bit of tape on it all round. We'll see how we go. You've got to bear in mind that I've only got a horizontal milling machine, and it's nice to show that you can do this without all the fancy equipment. Oh, David, sorry about that. That's awful. You could hold a centre in it. I don't think there'd be any problems at all putting that in the chuck and facing the front of it. I don't think that'd be even the slightest issue, to be honest. It's only cast iron. It'll be pretty soft. But there we go. This is going to be more of a fun thing to machine. Probably you could machine this, hold it in the 4-jaw and machine the bottom. Probably it's going to go in the mill, and then I'll just run a cutter along it and probably use a horizontal side and face cutter along the bottom. I'm not sure about the super glue chuck thing. Haven't even looked in the book to see what's actually written in here about it. There's only about 2 pages in this book that actually cover this engine. It's quite a thick little booklet, but there's not much information about it at all. There's the vertical version and the horizontal version. Look, I haven't really even looked. There's a little bit about machining the flywheel. Probably going to use this new faceplate for that. This base and pedestal for this engine, there's very, very little written about it. It's got a diagram for marking it out, which is next to useless. It's got instructions for holding it on a block of wood with a backstock in the lathe for drilling the ports. You haven't seen sketchy until you've seen model engineering setups from the 1920s and 30s. That's sketchy, but I guess it works. Push it along with the tailstock on a block of wood to drill these. Not sure about that. But this was sort of built with the intention of being built with a lathe with no milling machine, really. But yeah, it's the way that these things were built on very early lathes. A lathe that the person would own that would build this engine in the 1920s was probably a wood lathe with some extra additions. It might have had a micrometer. It might have had a vernier or something like that. Probably had a set of number drills if he was lucky. He might have had some taps and dies. I don't imagine hardware store taps and dies in the 1920s were any better or worse than hardware store taps and die sets in 2020. It was whatever tools you could buy and down at the ironmongers or the hardware store, and a lot of these setups were really you sort of did what you could with what you had a lot of times. There's machining the vertical standards on an angle plate on the Facebook plate. Yeah, stuff that. So yeah, it's sort of, that's how things were made. So we'll sort of try and keep to the but we try and keep to the spirit of the thing and do it with the same sort of thought processes, that we make an engine that'll run and bits that fit together, rather than something that's dimensions to tenths with ISO tolerances, because there isn't any tolerances in this. It's just like the closest tolerance is about 32nd of an inch. I don't think there's any 1/64th dimensions on it, and that's 31,016th of an inch as a 32nd of an inch. So pretty basic thing. Try and keep to the spirit of 1920s engine build. And it'll still run. That's all it needs to do, and it'll run nice, I reckon. Cylinder tolerances and piston tolerances, valve tolerances, things like that are probably a bit more important, and we'll go into them a bit, but I reckon I can get a pretty big hole in this in a couple, 3 or 4 videos. Anyway, there we go. What else is happening? Not very much. We've got 3D print crocodile. How cool is this? A complete waste of plastic, but all printed in one piece, all flexible, okay, all loose joints, not clipped together afterwards. Pretty cool. I don't think of any other way you could possibly make it, but there you go. It's all done in one piece. Patty's still on at that. It's a crocodile. There's no crocodiles in Australia except for the dangerous ones and the ones in the rivers and things. But apart from that, there's no crocodiles. There's none here in the river that I've ever seen. Floods, it's a bit different, but at the moment, there's no crocodiles. Matt's right to a certain extent that the old stuff is better. Look, I don't entirely believe that. I'm just going to reach in front of the camera here, and we'll fish some tools down that come with my shaper, which are up here for display and interest sake only. Hang on. Here we go. Here we go. The set of tools that come with my shaper. Plenty of crocs here. Yeah, I was going to say that there's no crocs except for the ones in the river and the dangerous ones. These are all forged tool steel. High carbon steel. Probably that one didn't actually fit in here at any point. I thought it might have, but it doesn't look like it does. Most of them are broken, and some of them are pretty awful. Some of them have been used in a pinch because I needed one. Some of these I would really wonder about. This one may or may not work. It looks like it's been snapped off. It might not have been. Not sure about that. This probably potentially was a pretty good tool until someone did the job on it. I think these were probably genuine Drummond, some of them. I'm not sure about that one. But this is probably a pretty good tool, and it gets a bit of use, and it's probably all right. And I know Chirpy uses a lot of these, and they're all right, absolutely. But when you say old was better, I don't believe that. As you look here at some of this stuff, this carbide boring bar that Stefan's ground up. I bet that cut's nice. And you can buy nearly equally as good boring bar out of China for next to nothing in carbide. That's pretty awesome. So I'm not inclined to go along with that old is better thing for a lot of things. I think you can still buy good quality or better quality than you could ever buy. This isn't going to focus, is it? Ever. Sorry. Craig's right. I'm still in that party. If you want to sort of get my opinion on 3D printing, I've got a printer that will actually do this. No support, no nothing. And will print this fairly easily without a lot of hassles and do a lot of this sort of thing with this sort of detail. There's a little bit of string in there if you have a close look, but nothing serious. And I like it and it's good, but it's still only a tool, and it's fun to sit down and leave this printing and come back and peel this off and have a proper crocodile that needs his tummy scratched. But I'm not really sold on it for pattern making, and I'm not really sold on it for anything that's of any particular use or quality. But you see the improvement even 5 years down the track of going and buying the latest model Prussia from actually the one that I did have is colossal. Like it's so far ahead of it, and even probably so far ahead of even an Ender or something like that. It's just the base model Prussia is still, it's good gear and it works because they're up to the minute and they've got some actual dollars to throw into R&D, whereas most 3D printed companies probably don't. But that's right. Matt is right. You're better off to buy new old stock drills for sure. Absolutely. And I do that. Like all my drill sets are sold, are made up out of new old stock, good quality drills. And they don't all match. You have a look at that drill set over there. They're all different. There's all sorts of things in that. It's my Imperial drill set. But they're all good drills. They're all Saturn and P&N and that sort of thing from Australian made stuff. And they're great. Some of the hardware store drills I've bought recently have been pretty crap. So there we go. Don't know if there's any real, you can't really go into that argument, but this is the sort of gear that someone who was lucky enough to have a shaper in 1920 making one of these engines, I could do this on the shaper, you know? I could do this on the shaper. We'll see how we go. This is the sort of tools that would have come with it. This great lump of lignum vitae or blackwood or something on it. I don't know what it is. It's pretty heavy, like really heavy lump of timber. That maybe it's just oil soaked, but don't know what it is. Could be blackwood. I've just smelt that. I know exactly what it is, which is a bit strange. Let's see how heavy it really is. But it's not what I thought it was. Maybe it is just seasoned. Nah, it is. It's definitely hue and pine. Really want to give that a rub on the linisher and see what it comes up like. Didn't know that. It can't possibly be anything else. If you smell that, you can't possibly mistake it for anything else. It's pretty solid, pretty dense bit of stuff. And it's probably just well aged. But it's definitely hue and pine. So there you go. Anyway, we're getting on a bit. Time's getting away. Hope I've got some exciting mail for you next week. I'm really looking forward to that. Really appreciate you guys all stopping by for a talk. Check out Discord. If you want to chat some more, the Discord server, the link's down there. Pretty good bunch of guys. Chirpy's our resident casting expert. We've got a foundry room. We've got model making room. We've got some photography rooms. There's a place you can go and get laughed at for your political views. Yeah, it's a pretty good fun place to hang out. So go and check out Discord server if you're interested and want somewhere to chat. And I'm going to call it a night because it's getting late. There's a photography channel too, which is probably the busiest one of the whole lot. Everyone takes pictures. And I'm going to say be kind to each other, especially to me. If you're watching this, then you go and watch my model engine build video. Be kind to me. And more soon, guys and girls. I'm going to say, hey, I'm out. Good night.